Good morning, everyone. Welcome into Mornings with Loretta. What a beautiful day. I'm so glad it's fall. So, as a lot of you know, genetics play a big role in our health in general and in heart disease specifically. So, we want to talk about hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, as also known as HCM, is the most common inherited heart disease, and it is estimated to affect 1 in 200 and 1 in 500 people in the US. So, this October, during Family History Month, it's important to highlight the role of genetics in HCM and why it's critical to know your family history. So, joining us this morning, we have Gwen Mayes. She's a patient advocate, and Dr. Libin Wang to tell us more about HCM and the impact of genetics in our history. So, welcome to the show.
Thank you. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, this is a tough subject to have early in the morning, but you know what? It is because of this subject and because of that stat that I shared, the 1 in 200 and the 1 in 500, why mornings are the best time to start this. So that gives people a head start, right, to make some changes today. So my first question is for you, Dr. Wang. What is HCM and what role does genetics play in this condition?
Thank you. Glad to be here. HCM actually is known for hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's actually the most commonly inherited cardiac condition, as you mentioned, Ms. Loretta. This is caused by genetic changes in our body that leads to the heart muscle being thickened. Although the heart muscle is very strong, it hinders blood flow in and out of the body and the heart. So people may feel inadequate heart flow in the body that cause them to feel short of breath, cause them to feel the chest pain. Sometimes they feel the heart races. They may feel dizzy, lightheaded, and sometimes they may even faint and pass out. Some people do die from it. And as is genetic inherited disease, it's caused by gene mutations in the body, and that runs in the family and can affect people at any age, any race, and any gender. So it's important to recognize this condition.
Wow, and it sounds like, those symptoms, and I want you to tell us one more time, then I have a question for Gwen, but what are the symptoms again? And it sounds like we can kind of underplay that and say it's something else other than what it really is. So the symptoms, I know you said lightheadedness and you could pass out. What are some of the other symptoms?
Some short of breath, people will have breathing problems, especially when they exercise. And sometimes this can be misdiagnosed as an asthma or exercise-induced asthma. And sometimes the chest pain can mimic a heart attack. People say, oh, am I having a heart attack? And sometimes the patient may feel the heart races. In the morning you mentioned we had coffee, and maybe, it's just because I had too much coffee.
Yeah, so we want to make sure we got more information coming, everybody. Tell somebody to tune in now. So I want to ask this question for Gwen so she can join us again. So can you tell us more about the journey that led you to your HCM diagnosis and whether you have a family history with the disease?
Sure. Well, good morning. But it's just as Dr. Wang has said, all of these symptoms I've had throughout my life. So it's maybe one thing to have them when you're an adult and you've just worked too much on, maybe you're trying to exercise on the weekend. But I had them when I was 6 and 7 years old. So the fainting, feeling short of breath, just feeling as a child I couldn't keep up on the playground. I remember I tried to participate in the Peachtree Road Race as a young person, and I couldn't even run a mile after practicing for a couple of months. So even as a young person, I noticed that I just didn't have the same level of exertion as others around me. And that's what's really key here. It's not so much these symptoms we hear so often. It's just that they persist and they're sort of just not inconsistent with how we're living our lives. I was actually diagnosed about the age of 32. I was riding a subway in Washington, D.C., and I had in the back of my mind this premonition that I may have something wrong with my heart because we had 2 members on my mother's side of the family die suddenly of a cardiac arrest well before the old age. And I actually had an episode on the Metro, was taken to the ER, and that's when I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy.
Oh, wow, that had to be scary. So are there people in your family with a history of the disease? I wanted to ask that question again.
Well, definitely by symptoms there are. These individuals, as I mentioned, are deceased, but my mother found her father deceased one morning while he was brushing his teeth, getting ready to go to work, and he was only 78 years old and the water was still running in the sink. Really destroyed her life. But she had grown up hearing him talk about finding his uncle deceased at 35. But my mother did not show symptoms. And the important thing about the genetic and the importance of the family history is that, as Dr. Wang can elaborate on, you can actually have the gene but not have symptoms. So that's why this condition can vary across the board. And patients and individuals really need to understand what they're feeling if it persists to get an accurate diagnosis with their doctor.
Ooh, that is so scary. So this leads to this question I want to ask Dr. Wang now. So what should someone do if they have a family member who has HCM and they're also diagnosed? Because if you're not having symptoms and you can still have it, what should we do?
Oh, first of all, most importantly, talk to your doctors, get clinically evaluated. That start with an office visit, share your family history with your doctor or your cardiologist, get a good physical exam, especially on the heart, and get appropriate cardiac testing as indicated. It is also important to do genetic testing to find out whether you are genetically affected or not. And also for your children, if you carry children.
Wow, I am so glad we're having this show because I haven't had any symptoms. I need to ask my mom if anybody has had those symptoms or been diagnosed, because we haven't had that tough conversation like that. So I want to ask Gwen, since we're talking about our families, how did your HCM diagnosis affect you and your family? And how has your life been since your diagnosis when you were early 30s?
Well, when I was actually diagnosed, there wasn't even an internet, so I don't mind admitting that. But it was quite a lonely journey. The first thing the cardiologist said to me is, you will have a shortened life expectancy. And I was advised not to have children. But that was the best medical advice at the time. But that was many, many years ago. But it was pretty hard when I was younger. And I had a lot of emotional challenges as a young woman, and I didn't have children. And it was hard on my family. It was hard on my mother, because she had, of course, seen her father deceased. Mm-hmm. But I've done well over time, and there's so much more now known. And so it's important for me, working in collaboration with Bristol Myers Squibb, to just actually bring awareness to how this condition can differ from anything else that we know about heart disease. So for those people who maybe just keep wanting to pass off that they're just not having a good day, or maybe they didn't sleep well last night, the key point, if it persists and there's no underlying reason, you should just feel so tired and short of breath when you're trying to enjoy your life with your family or hike or bike, then you really need to bring that forward to your doctor.
That is a great point, because we do have a tendency, and I know personally, to play it down. Oh, I'm just tired. I'm extra tired, or had a cup of coffee is causing my heart to race, or, I've always been this way, so I'm okay now. But we really aren't okay if any of that is happening for any long periods of time. So what advice do you have for someone who's been recently diagnosed or living with HCM? And then the second part of that question is, and where should people go for more information?
Well, Loretta, you're absolutely right. And what was coming to mind listening to you is, so many times women, particularly in middle age, are just told it's all in their head too. So I wanted to get that in there. Oftentimes we're just fatigued, and these symptoms, particularly in midlife, can really just be brushed off. For more information, I really encourage individuals to go to coulditbehcm.com. That is written in layman's terms. It's an excellent website, so individuals can just sort of track along and understand how this might differ from any other heart condition that maybe they've heard about or know somebody who has had. So that would be the best thing that I would suggest, and particularly during Family History Month, is to just make sure that you know your family's history of cardiovascular disease.
I'm so glad you made that point, and we'll give that website again. We only have a couple of seconds, but when we're talking about family history, we usually want to talk about, our accolades, how famous somebody was, or what happened to them, when they were younger, the history of how they met. But I'm hoping and praying this month in October that we will talk about our medical history. I know it's hush hush, people don't want to talk about it, but it can save lives. It can put a lot of things, make it more clear for us. So what's the website again, so that can help us initiate that conversation today, not just in October?
Sure. That website is coulditbehcm.com. So that stands for, of course, HCM is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. So the website is coulditbehcm.com, and it is for the general public. It's not a lot of medical jargon. And so I think it'll be really, really helpful. And we just want to thank you so much for helping us raise awareness of this very important heart condition. Where we started off a few minutes ago is many, many people don't know they have this condition and often are either misdiagnosed or not diagnosed at all. So thank you for raising awareness.
Thank you so much, Gwen. And thank you so much, Dr. Wang. I appreciate all the work you all doing, because it really does matter and it is saving lives. So until next time, we'll see you soon, Gwen. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.